Hold on to your seats because today we are going to talk about politics and Medicare. Yikes. 2024 is a presidential election year, and it always brings up uncertainty and people don't know what they should do. So today I'm going to try to address the two candidates for president who both have been president, look at their history on what they've done with Medicare, and try to give you an idea of what to expect if Biden is president again or if Trump is president again. I'm going to talk about the current issues that the candidates still need to address and the best way that you can approach Medicare this year. I'm Calvin with PlanFit, and I've been helping seniors navigate big Medicare changes for over 14 years now. So let's get started. Let me first talk about the candidates and their stances on Medicare. Joe Biden has been adamant about protecting Medicare and Social Security, but have his actions actually matched his words? Meanwhile, what would happen if Trump becomes president again and comes out on top in November and becomes president in 2025? How would a change in the administration affect Medicare? People often have been concerned that some Republicans have voiced that they want to reduce Medicare spending. So what does that mean? Now, Joe Biden and the Democrats have always been verbally supportive of Medicare. They have not always been supportive, however, of Medicare Advantage. But here's what Joe Biden said during his State of the Union speech.
If anyone here tries to cut Social Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will stop you.
Now, while this verbal support is appreciated, the actions of Joe Biden's administration have not always matched that. Under the Biden administration, CMS lowered compensation to Medicare Advantage plans below inflation, which is essentially the first reduction in funding for Medicare Advantage that we have ever seen. It doesn't take effect until 2025, so we haven't seen what the impact will be entirely yet. But it's a surprise to me that in an election year, the Biden administration would allow a reduction in Medicare Advantage benefits for the first time in history. I think there will be a lot of squirming when people with Medicare start to get their annual notice of changes in September and October, which is the month before the presidential election. Now, keep in mind, 53% of people with Medicare are on Medicare Advantage plans. So when they say, don't mess with my Medicare, 53% of the people are talking about Medicare Advantage, not original Medicare. Most of these people are going to receive bad news when they get their annual notice of changes in September and October. Many will no longer even have a Medicare Advantage plan available in their area because Humana and Aetna, two of the largest carriers, have both already announced that they will have to reduce their service area by 10% in 2025. We haven't heard from other carriers, and there are other carriers that will also probably be reducing their areas and benefits. So this gives us a picture that we could see an exodus from Medicare Advantage from many areas. On a more positive note with the Biden administration, they have pushed for and successfully got Congress to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which made some big improvements to Medicare, particularly to Medicare Part D. Medicare Part D used to have really confusing payment brackets that a lot of people just did not understand. And I'll admit, I've had a hard time wrapping my head around them. But with the new changes, it's going to be more simplified now. And next year, the maximum you can spend out of pocket for prescription drugs is going to be set at $2,000. Now that, for some people, will be a massive improvement. However, the Inflation Reduction Act put the financial responsibility to make this happen on insurance companies and drug manufacturers. Now, in theory, that makes for a great speech, and it sounds really good. We're going to make the insurance companies and the drug manufacturers pay more so that we can give this $2,000 maximum out of pocket on drug costs. But in reality, what it means is that everyone with a drug plan will probably end up paying more for their drug plan because insurance companies and drug manufacturers are going to pass the cost on to the people who are using the prescriptions. So we expect to see a significant increase in the cost for Medicare drug plans in 2025. Now, another thing to consider is that CMS under the Biden administration is also giving Medicare Advantage plans a bunch of new regulations this year. In fact, we've seen more regulation this year than in any year in the past. Now, these regulations are supposed to make Medicare Advantage plans more transparent and make Medicare agents less biased towards high commission plans, and just overall make it easier for people with Medicare to get the coverage they need. However, these regulations could potentially have some elements that backfire, which I'll talk about more in a moment. Now, on the other side, we have Trump and the Republicans. On this side, some of the Republicans have tried to find ways to reduce spending in Medicare. However, Trump has recently said,
under no circumstances should Republicans vote to cut a single penny from Medicare or Social Security to help pay for Joe Biden's reckless spending spree.
Now, there was some recent news that Trump is open to cutting some Medicare spending, and critics like to say that he was lying about supporting Medicare, while Trump supporters insist that he's only talking about cutting wasteful spending and that it won't really affect Medicare. It's all really confusing, but what's reassuring is to look at what's happened in the past. And I think the past is the best predictor of the future. In the past, both Democrats and Republicans have supported and strengthened Medicare, with the exception of the Biden administration this year. But that really is an anomaly. Medicare started in 1965 under Democratic President LBJ, who became president after JFK was assassinated. Meanwhile, George W. Bush signed the Medicare Modernization Act of 2003 that made the two most important updates we've seen to Medicare, which is prescription drug plans and Medicare Advantage. But before the Medicare Modernization Act was signed in 2003, Medicare did not cover medications at all. So Democrats can lay claims to Medicare A and B, or original Medicare, and Republicans can make claims to Medicare C and D, which is Medicare Advantage plans and Medicare prescription drug plans. So both have strengthened Medicare. Let's get back to the 2024 presidential election, and let's talk about what are the current issues that the candidates still need to address. Right now, there are really two big things regarding Medicare that need to be addressed. The first one is that Medicare is always running out of money. And as more and more baby boomers turn 65 and Gen X is coming up just in a few years, Medicare is expecting record numbers of enrollees in the next few years. It's awesome that our knowledge of medicine is helping people to live longer, but people living longer definitely puts a strain on Medicare's budget. In addition to that, some of the treatments, which are very good, are also becoming very expensive. All of this contributes to Medicare's dwindling funds, and projections show that if nothing changes, the trust fund for Medicare Part A, which is responsible for covering hospital bills, will run out by 2031. And if this happens, then you can expect to have big cuts in benefits. Essentially, what this means is that Medicare would become worse under any leadership that can't find a way to get more funds. Now, to fight this, Biden has proposed raising Medicare taxes for the rich. He wants to raise Medicare taxes for people who make more than $400,000. Meanwhile, Trump hasn't clearly said what he plans to do about this. However, the other Republican candidates like Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis are both in favor of raising the age requirement for Medicare from 65 to either 67 or 70. It would not take effect immediately, but would be for people who are below a certain age today. Again, there still aren't any solid plans on this, just conjecture, but certainly something that people have talked about. Before I talk about the second big issue, let me just say that if you're finding this video helpful, please hit the like button. When you do this, it helps this video reach other people who may be worried about their Medicare in the upcoming election. Also, if you're looking for good Medicare information, make sure to hit subscribe and check out my other videos. All right, back to our topic. Now, the second big issue regarding Medicare nowadays is the growing amount of regulation that's coming to insurance companies and the reduction in budget, which I talked about earlier. In 2025, CMS is giving Medicare Advantage companies an increase that does not match inflation. If you've looked at stock prices, you'll find that the biggest Medicare insurance providers, their stock is going down. So we expect that the reduction in funding coupled with the tight regulations is going to cause insurance companies to cut their benefits so that they can make up for their losses in 2025. Now, we don't know exactly how all this will play out if CMS keeps adding regulations to Medicare Advantage plans, but it's certainly something that we need to be aware of, because there's no way that these big insurance companies can provide the same benefits to their members if they're losing money. Okay, so now that you have an idea what the stances are for the candidates and what the big issues are that they're facing, the question is, what should you do about it? Well, the answer might surprise you. The best thing that you can do is nothing. The best thing is don't panic. Don't let the election season affect you and how you enroll in Medicare and which plan that you choose for 2025. Because the truth is, If there's ever a big regulation change or a change to Medicare, it's going to take years before it takes effect. So if the presidential election affects Medicare, it's not going to happen immediately. That's why you should treat everything as normal until there's an actual change to law or regulation, because that's when you start preparing. If you decide to wait for the election to be over before you enroll or before you make a choice, you could lose out on opportunity, you could miss your window, or you could end up with permanent Medicare penalties. Now, penalties is something I talk about in a different video, which I'll leave in a link below, but you want to be careful to make sure that you are not delaying things because of uncertainty. So the best action you can take is educate yourself and make a good choice for 2025. If you choose a Medicare Advantage plan, that plan can't change in the middle of the year. It will be the same all through 2025, and you'll have time to react if there are changes in 2026. If you have a Medicare supplement plan, Medicare supplement plans are not changing. Prices could change, but the plan itself will not. When you know exactly how Medicare works, you will have a much better understanding of the issues that are coming up and exactly what the candidates are proposing to deal with these issues. Not only that, but knowing how Medicare works will also land you in the best plan and coverage to save you as much money as possible. That's why, if you want to learn more, check out my free workshop, which I'll teach you absolutely everything you need to know about Medicare, and I'll leave a link in the description for that below. Other than that, thank you for watching, and remember, don't panic about the presidential election, but vote wisely.